There was a bunch of people drinking a little beer and had a hamburger fry. And somebody says, why don't we just form a club of our own? And Charlie Horvath says, that's a damn good idea. So the next week, we had the Denver Gym in Minnowville. That's how it came about. And we made rules. And every one of our rules was like a willow tree. You made a rule, but it could be bent. And it worked. Traditions, family. There's a lot of groups of decent human beings just having fun. And every one of the people that was there or in the club is different. We've bumped heads, but they're all good people. Let's see, I've had field trips. Catherine and I had hospitality several times. We had the newspaper for several years, and I was the president one time. Which anybody can be president. There's a lot of people that's smarter than I am that would took care of me. Good parties, lots of laughs, pulling stinkies on each other. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I can remember a story. We all went to the first field trip I ever led. Well, the first field trip the club ever had was to Judd, Oklahoma. That was a good field trip. We got to the gate to go into the park, and here's a rattlesnake about 6 foot long. We're rolled up right at the front gate. So that started the whole trip. And then the mulberry trees was all in bloom and had berries on them. And the kids was in those mulberries, and they was all just covered purple with mulberry juice. And that was quite a trip. And Addenbrook, he was a nice old boy. I mean to tell you, he's the one that got me into the rocks. When I was a kid, I had a collection of rocks over in Lakewood, and I had it on the back porch, and it consisted of a bunch of just donipers. He seen that one morning when he was visiting my older brother, and he says, you better get in collecting rocks. He gave me a bunch of rocks. The Breckheisens was my next door neighbor, and Dick and Vanita were interested in rocks, and when the club was formed, that's one of the first people I recommended to be part of our group.
Luke introduced us to the guild.
Luke and Cat.
Next door neighbors. We had a ball. Everybody was real friendly. I think going on the field trips was really what got the club together. We camped, and there was an owl, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Luke had to get up and go out of it.
Relieve himself, and the owl hooted. What'd you say?
He was gonna pee in the owl's ear. And I said, I'd like to see that.
And all of the other people that was in the first membership was handpicked by the people, the first 13 people. It was all friends that they enjoyed. And it made a hell of a group of good people. Mary Rybacky was one of the good people, and she held every office I think we had. And her and her husband, they collected clocks. And you'd go into their house for a board meeting, and all of the clocks would go bong, bong, click, click, clunk, clunk. It was quite a show. They had clocks from all around the world. wind-up clocks, everything. Al Perillo, he was the president. No, I think he was the president, the first president we had, and he was a school teacher over in North Denver. Good man, good man.
My dad, Denzil Wiggins, was a member of the Guild for 48 of the last 50 years, from 1965 till he passed away in 2013. His longtime friend, Luke Westervelt, was the one who invited Denzil to join the Guild.
Denzil lived over on 10th Avenue, and he had a little business in his house. He done good. He was really a nice man. Denzil liked his Kickapoo juice, and whenever we'd go on a field trip, Denzil would always have his Kickapoo juice. That Kickapoo juice, I had a couple of drinks of it, and it'd make hair grow on your feet. He was a good man. Tommy's house, Tommy built that house, and it took him about, I'd say 5 years to build it. And he laid every stone on those fireplaces. The fireplace, every stone that was in that fireplace was from a different spot in Colorado. If you knew, if there was just a list, they could go down and you could make a story out of that. The gate posts, I was with him on a field trip where we got that big log. He drove his old Chevy pickup up that creek bed, I'll bet you 5 miles, and it took 6 of us to load it into that old pickup that he had. And Beth Simmons, she's a nice lady, but what she's doing right now with these short trips, her and Bedreston, is a good thing, and it's good to get it out to the rest of the people. This history needs to be known. It don't need to be in a book stored away in a museum or in an office building where nobody gets to see it. Thank you, Pete. And Beth.
Well, it was about 74 or 75. We were at the museum here at the School of Mines, and there was a fellow there his name was Luke, and he was talking to us and telling us about the Guild, and I was particularly interested in finding a group here. So that's how we found out about the Guild, and then how we managed to join. Well, we wanted to dig. It's the main reason. Most people at that time, the Guild was virtually all collectors.
I joined because he made me. That isn't true, because we were the new kids on the block, and I think I enjoyed it just for the social activity and making new friends and all.
I like the group of people are so congenial. It's always been a good group, and there always been new people joining. You think it's going downhill, and all of a sudden there'll be maybe 6 or 8 to join that particular year, and so it's been perpetuated pretty well.
It's almost like family, and people get to know each other and each other's family, and it just goes on and on and on. So Christmas parties.
I guess that's it. That is it.
It was especially good when we could take our grandkids. Now they're grown up.
There were several outstanding field trips. I remember one time we had one that happened to be, it was Diane's birthday, and we had a big party, and we had a lot of people there, and everybody was a little bit crazy, and that was a good time.
My favorite field trip is the field trip that we made homemade ice cream and sat out in this pasture and had homemade ice cream and watched the sky. Comets were flashing over.
Yeah, it was a meteor shower.
A lot of oohs and ahs, and it was very nice.
I remember you being there and helping out at the Lakeside show all the time.
So we talked to some of the stores managers and stuff. And, oh, we love it. Don't let them take it away.
I was electrician. I made all the extension for the show, you know, the cases, all that.
Those
lined
metal
up.
boxes that we still use.
We all went on a field trip, the guys, and we were over at Ruby Mountain in Utah. Okay, Bob was there, and he wears bib overalls when he digs, and he puts his billfold in the pocket. Well, that night, Bob had left his billfold over there in that hole. And he worried all night. He got up early in the morning and went up and couldn't find it. So about, oh hell, it was what, 3-4 weeks?
Yeah, that's a yeah.
Here it comes to him, somebody had found it and brought it to him.
Doctor there in Grand Junction. He called me up and said, how did you like your trip out to Grand Junction? And I was editor at that time, so I figured he had seen that. And so I said, well, we did pretty good. He said, you lose anything? I couldn't believe it.
We joined the Guild in 1974 when we moved back here from Dallas. And my brother was a member of the Denver Gem and Mineral Guild, and he invited us along on some field trips. And I just got addicted from that point on.
I have been secretary for the Guild from the moment I became a member. And when I was a member and went to the first meeting of the Guild in Westerfelt's basement, I was elected the secretary, and I believe there's only been 2 years in all these years that someone else has been secretary when I was president.
I've been show chairman, I was president of the Guild, and I think grab bag chairman 1 year.
I think it's a great group of very interesting, fun, knowledgeable people.
I just like the camaraderie of the group and the education I received from some of the older members. I mean, I'd never collected rocks before, I had no collection, and I got excited when we were stuffing grab bags.
And I like it because it has a history in which we repeat the similar thing every single year, like having an annual Christmas party, like having an annual popcorn party.
It was really fun because a lot of the members were older, and we had 2 very young boys.
Luke used to take one of the boys at a time and say, come on, let's go see what we can find. And he would dig with him for a half a day, and then he would come back and get the other boy and dig with them. And they would rush back with their arms full of wonderful rocks, stones, and crystals they found.
When I take the kids out with me digging, it didn't cost me a dime to dig out a fairly decent crystal and pitch it over in the kids' hole and let them find it, and the kids would just thoroughly enjoy it. The Bennett boys, I used to take them out with me, I was just thinking, and I'd get firewood for the fire in the evening. I'd make sure that I always got the cottonwood trees, because when you burned it, it smelled just like the splatterboard in an outhouse, and their dads and mothers just loved that smell.
I guess the Bob Award would be one of the things that I would think about, because it became such an interesting phenomenon with Bob Park, and we called it the OCI, the Otero County Incident, that he swore to Janie if she ever told what he did, she would divorce him.
And that's not that Janie, this is
Janie Park, right. And from that point on, it just became a world of imagination as to what actually happened there with Bob. And one time he decided, he said, well, Roger, I'll tell you what it was if you don't tell anybody else. I said, no, that would take the fun away from it.
I guess one of the memories was when we were all digging at Calumet, and all of us had dogs that were roaming around, and Diane's dog went up the hill a little ways, and all of a sudden we heard it yelp, and it was bitten on the nose by a rattlesnake. We all backed every single vehicle out instantly so that the first vehicle, which happened to be the one closest to the dog, could get out. That Norm and Diane drove the dog to the veterinarian in Salida. The Salida veterinarian said, when you come back, I can't guarantee whether the dog will be alive or dead, but I will work my hardest to have that dog alive for you. And he was, and that was fantastic.
And after that, because the doctor had to operate on the face of the dog, got bit on the cheek, the dog always had this, can I say, shit-eating grin on his face all the time, even though he wasn't happy.
I joined the Guild in 1996. My favorite Guild tradition is probably the picnic. Well, just because we all get outdoors and have a little fun, not too heavy, and lots of good food, and we get the grab bags packed. It was the second field trip I went on. Up at Lake George, we were at Goodhart Hill, and I had a truck and camper, and I locked my keys in the camper. And the guys crawled on top of the camper, got down through the vent, and hooked the keys with a coat hanger hook. For this, I received third place in the Bob Award. So you can well imagine what the first place winner did.
I've been a member for approximately 6 years. I've been membership, vice president, and going on 3 years as president. I enjoy the camaraderie of everybody, going and having meetings, going on field trips. Guild picnic, where we get to go out and have fun and do different things. We usually do the rubber ducky races, but this year we were throwing rocks, which is great for a rock club. We went to Tulsa for the annual show in Tulsa, which was American Federation and Rocky Mountain Federation combined. And we took 2 cases and won first place for each of our cases with sculptures and topaz. Got to meet a lot of people and see the workings at the national level.
I joined the Guild 1995, give or take some. I have been vice president, president, I think I've been president twice. I've been the show chairman numerous times, and I'm currently show chairman.
And I am historian, and it used to be that at the Christmas party, the president was responsible for putting on the program. Joe was all concerned about it, and I said, don't worry, I'll help you out. And I did a PowerPoint where I put people's faces into minerals and different things. He never mentioned who actually did the presentation. And after that, I was doing it for everyone, and it's become the historian's job to do the program now.
I enjoy the field trips when I get a chance to go on them. And I enjoy the members. A lot of nice people.
That's true.
We were at the Wigwam claim, and I found a pocket of large feldspars and a single smoky quartz. And I think that really is one of my favorite memories.
Keith and I joined the Guild probably in early 90s, not positive of the year, but we joined basically. Keith says that he joined because
I Facet and Jerry Hess was our sponsor. And good old Jerry knew that I cut pretty good.
for birthdays one month, and I had Greg's little son come up, and of course he was so short and little. I had him stand on a chair and hold his candle, and he's standing on a chair, and his candle, I lit it, and pretty soon this little voice came out, and he says, "There's only one thing wrong with this. My mother always said I couldn't play with fire." Being involved with the Guild is because of the friendships that we have formed through over the years. There are many times that we have gone digging, but also social times that we have had is very important.
I was grab bag chair for like 5 years, and after I passed it on to Mr. Breckeisen, he kept me busy hauling rocks to him and labels and whatever else he could think of. He's a neat guy. One year, and there was 17 of us over in the amphitheater at Topaz Mountain, and they decided we needed to line up by age and get a picture. Here we're all lining up, and let's see, I was 64 then. We're really dating ourselves now. Anyway, we got up to 64, and I'm 64, and Bob Park says, "I'm 64. He says, "You can't be 64. I said, "What do you mean? I'm 64. He says, "You must have led a really sheltered life." Which got a laugh out of everybody. Without a doubt, my favorite digging buddy was Bill Pivey, and he and I went all kinds of places together, and I miss him a bunch. Mr. Bill.
When all the guys would take off and go to Utah for their trip, the girls in the Guild would always get together every year, and we'd go up to Rocky Mountain National Park and get a cabin. We'd take our food, and we'd spend the weekend or 3 or 4 days up at the cabin.
We used to have where the women would get together also for an evening, and normally Janie Bennett would be the one that would have this gathering at her house, and we'd all come and bring a potluck and discuss different things, but mainly jewelry, minerals, and the good times would always be mentioned with a nice glass of wine.
Last show, little Luke came to me at our booth, and he says, "I've got Luke over at the club booth." Came around the corner, he into the back of the booth. While Luke looks at me and he says, "Oh, Max," so I gave him this big hug. Then Zelda says, "I need a picture of that." While she's getting her camera, I said to Luke, "Now, whenever she comes back to take our picture, I'm gonna kiss you on the cheek." Zelda gets all set with her camera, I said, and so she said, "Okay, smile," and I turned to kiss Luke on the cheek, and he just turned his head, and I got a big smooch from Luke, right on the lips, and he giggled. To have back in the olden days is that we had a picture that was passed from couple to couple to couple.
The passing of the painting, yeah, that was a good one.
Very ugly velvet-looking thing. Margie and Joe got it one year. Helen and her husband got it. But anyhow, it had been passed on for several years. I don't know what happened to it, but that was always a fun thing that went on because you never knew who was going to get that beautiful picture.
I'm Linnell. I'm a new member of the club, probably about 3 months. I like the club because I know nothing about minerals except I like rocks, so I'm learning a lot. And it's a great group of people, very, very friendly, lots of stories and lots of history and lots of knowledge. And so I'm very happy I found it.
I'm Greg Keaston. I've been a member for, gosh, I don't know, 25 years or 30 years or something. It's been quite a while. And I actually was an officer. You guys trusted me with your money for a few years as treasurer. So. That's awkward.
Hi, my name's Johnny Gilbert, and I've been part of the Denver Guild for about 3 years now. And one of the things that I like most about the Guild is the opportunities to go on field trips from Fred and Dave Sanchez. My gear got ready to go. They wanted to know if I'd ever done rock hounding before, and I said, yeah. I've done some crystal hunting in Arkansas, and so they said, well, you got to come to the meetings. So I started coming to the Guild and met everyone, and I think it's a really great team of people. I love being here, I love the energy, and I love the field trips. And those are some of the things that keep me going. I'm just hooked.
Hey, my name is Michael Dempsey. I am an old member of the Denver Gem and Mineral Guild. I joined when I was in high school back in 1968. In late 69, early 1970, the Denver Gem and Mineral Guild gave me a scholarship to the Colorado School of Mines, which I used, came here, became a geologist. I'm now returning, as geologists do. I moved all around the country, actually the world, and I moved back to Colorado, and I'm now at the Colorado School of Mines Museum, but I'm also a returning member to the Denver Gem and Mineral Guild, and so I have nothing but good things to say about the Guild.
Joan and I joined the Guild in 1983. I joined as member number 212. Joan didn't get to join for about 4 or 5 months because there was not an open slot. That's back in the days when we had a 80 membership maximum, and Joan is member number 213, which is exactly 200 memberships over the last of the original 13 people that started the Denver Gem and Mineral Guild in 1964.
I think we joined the Guild in 1983, and it has been a wonderful, wonderful association to be a member of. I have learned so much about minerals, about people, about going on field trips, and even the women getting together. We had a wonderful time at the Christmas party, especially with the gag gifts that were given to different members, and it was normally over something silly that would happen at a field club meeting. A field club, not a meeting, but at an outing that we would have. And during the year, we would know about something that happened to one of the members, and then we would try to find something to wrap, and Santa Claus would always give them a reminder of what happened. When we were really active, the thing that was very important is we had sponsors to help us adjust to the clubs, because we didn't know a lot about gems and minerals when we first joined. And the one thing our sponsor told us is we want active members. And that is, I feel, very, very important for a club.
Okay, I joined the Guild in 1991 when you needed to have a sponsor. Glenn and Joan Johnson went ahead and sponsored me, and ultimately I went ahead and joined the Guild. In the early 1990s, I was assisted Luke Westervelt with the grab bag. Then at some point in time, I became historian. After Gregory Hestad moved to Dallas, I took over as treasurer, and I was treasurer for about 5 or 6 years. My favorite program or activity, if you will, is the Bob Award.
And we don't remember when we joined, but Glenn and Joan Johnson were our sponsors. First field trip we went on, went up to the Wigwam Claim, and everybody was up there camping but us. And we had our little dog with us. It was about 96 degrees up there, and we hit a pocket, and it went on and on and on and on. Everybody else had come down out of the hills, and they were all sitting around their trailers having drinks, and we were still cleaning out this pocket.
We weren't even members.
We weren't members, that's right. That was right before we were members. And we came down dragging. We drunk all the water. Our little dog was dying of thirst. His tongue was hanging out. So everybody gave us something to eat, and then they wanted to see what we got, which was not too interesting after all of that. When Debbie was doing pancakes and she forgot to bring the grill. She brought a grill instead of a griddle. That's the year she got the Bob Award.
Yeah.
I joined the Gem and Mineral Guild many years ago, somewhere around 2002 or 4. Going on the field trips was always lots of fun, but I had to learn how to do something with what I was finding. So a wonderful member of the club by the name of Eleanor Wiegand
took me under her wing and taught me how to do lapidary. Her specialty was opal and fire agates, so I learned to do those, along with other minerals as well. Probably my favorite thing from the Guild, aside from the parties that we have, is doing our shows, the annual September show and our show that is now in February. I love the shows because I have a whole dedicated 3 days that I can spend practicing my lapidary. And I just am like a big kid in a mud puddle, only it's rock juice.
We used to go on the men's trips, and we used to go to Delta, Utah every year, and we'd go to the Red Burl Mine with a couple of days with Rex Harris. We'd go up to Topaz Mountain one day. We'd go to the Maynard-Bixbyite Claim. We'd go up to the Dugway Geode. We'd go to the Sunstone Hill where the gnats would eat you alive. You were on your own for breakfast, but for lunch when we were in the field, I got volunteered because I said I would do it, and I became mother. And you had to follow mother's rules when it was time to eat. The oldest club members got to eat first, with the junior members being at the end of the line.
Glenn Johnson used to be our chaperone. We called him Mother because you had to wash your hands before you had lunch. And he would set everything up, and then everybody had to wash their hands, and they got their hands checked. If you didn't wash your hands, you had to go back. When Glenn used to be Mother, Roger Bennett loves gherkins. And they would always get gherkins, and then they would hide the bottle so Roger couldn't find them, which is a heck of a deal. He'd had a hissy fit all the time trying to find the gherkin, and they would finally give them to him. The other thing along with those trips is Jerry Hess used to make wine, and he would bring a case of choke cherry wine or two to every one of those trips. So every night after we got home, got cleaned up, we'd have a glass of wine before we went to dinner.
These were marvelous trips, and we found tons of material. The men's trips were something that I do not participate anymore because I don't live in Colorado, I'm in New Mexico, but that was something I would encourage the members of the Guild currently that live here to restart the men's trips. It was a great way for you to learn about different areas and learn to make friends with a whole bunch of new people that you have just met.
Glenn Johnson and Bert and Kay Sonoy, we were off digging up at the Twin Spruce campground for topaz. Glenn, he got to digging under this big rock, and the first thing you know, the rock rolled over in the hole and trapped him.
I was being stupid of sitting in a hole with my feet down underneath the rock, and I undercut it, and the rock fell on my foot, and I couldn't get my foot out. Several people came and took the rock off of my foot.
Bert and I went over and we lifted the rock out of him, but it hurt his ankle a little.
And then Bert Hanu wanted to take my britches off so that they could go get 2 long pieces of a tree and stick through it and use it as a stretcher. And I said, no, I am not taking my britches off in front of all these people. If I have to crawl out, I will do that, but I'm not taking my britches off.
I went over and pulled an aspen tree down, a small aspen tree, and made him a crutch. And Case just got on my case because I destroyed a tree.
Now that's the real story and the real truth from somebody that was in the hole being stupid.
Good people in our club. There's not a one that I don't really like.